Hey, thanks. Hey. So how was it?
Are you ready? I had some BS question about contracts and all this other stuff just to hear my own voice, and that was ridiculous. And then I saw this, and I'm trying to think and put together, and I've learned so much from you over the years and all that stuff, of course. But I'm trying to think, if I'm looking at the page, like, how would I get to there? And, you know, we all have our voice and everything, and this is yours, and it is what it is. But it's so engaging, and like, I guess my long-winded question is there a larger piece than you're working from that Jane went to you and said, let's do this, and this is just the 5 minutes of it? Or did you guys talk about the project and go, let's take this person and make her this? Like, I don't understand. Like, looking at my script, right? Like, how would I get there?
Well, that's an excellent question, I have to say. And by the way, how are you? It's really good to see you. Well, I mean, it's a great question, because actually when Jane called me and said, look, you know, do this, read this, I want you to do it. And I read it and I said, what the fuck? I mean, what? And I said, I don't know, I think I might have to turn it down, because I don't even know why you'd want me to do this. I don't have any reference for it. Why don't you get Ben Kingsley? I just like when I don't understand. I mean, I have no relationship. I have no way in, and I thought she was funny. That was my way. The only way in that I had on the page was I went, I think this character's pretty funny. I think there's some laughs in this character in relation to the tone of the piece, which is so dark. I thought that the irony of the character was funny. But then, and so I kind of turned it down. And you know, on the phone with Jane. And then she said, look, you know, and I said, it's not very big either. And she said, you know, I said, I'd love it if it were a bigger part. And she said, it's big. She said, this part is big. You're misunderstanding the impact this character has. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And that was that. You know, based just on the fact that I love Jane and I respect Jane and I trust Jane, I went, I'll be blind and obey you, and I'll do this. And she said, I know this character. And she knew a man who this character was based on, who had been highly influential in her life. I mean, Jane is a real explorer. She's a real adventurer, and she spends a lot of time in India. And so I said, okay. And then I went to New Zealand, and we improv'd for like a week, and that was really torturous for me. But I'm old enough now and experienced enough where even though the improv was torturous, because I don't have those words, I don't have that wisdom. I'm not a philosopher. I'm not an existentialist. It was really good to be in the room with Jane and try to find the voice of this woman, you know, extemporaneously. And then also through silence. And then we all did improvs. All the women at the women's camp, we were all hanging out together, and we just did improvs together for a week. And it was really great. We all got really comfortable with each other. So, you know, I found the character really through silence. You know, through almost a meditational thing that I kind of went, this is my way in.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Teresa Michelle Ruiz. I'm a huge fan, been studying your acting for a very long time, still not even at 1% close to you, but wow, your character is definitely intense, and my question is more about preparation. How did you prepare for that character? Did you do anything the night before, the day of? And then equally, how do you prepare in general for all your roles before going on set?
Well, I mean, for this, like I said, I hung around Jane a lot, for a couple of weeks when I first got to New Zealand and talked to her a lot. And I looked at, there was some videotape of this guy that my character is based on. And at the end of the day, I had to throw that away, the videotape of this gentleman, what I found on the internet, because it was too intimidating. It was too, all I could do would be, I can't, I'm not an imitator. I'm not it was very distracting and very intimidating for me to know that there was somebody real. And often that's a help. Often that provides me with tools. Oh, I can take from them. Well, I couldn't take from this guy because the character already is so out there. I just couldn't take from him because I could never make it my own. So I really had to kind of think about just listening to Jane, and we hung out for hours. And she has impeccable taste. And then my own instincts about meditation. And Lisa, who's right here, Lisa helped me memorize all the lines. And she has helped me memorize lines for 7 years of any project that I've ever done. And so Lisa, I did this, some eye exercises where I would just be focused and have Lisa walk into my focus and just train my eyes so that I wouldn't blink or that I wouldn't move my eyes when she came into my range of vision. And that was kind of an interesting exercise that I did initially, because I thought the way that GJ looked at people, the way that she regarded people had to be very, very particular. So that was just like an exercise. I got to where, Lisa could come in or sit down, and it didn't distract me. It was kind of like training yourself not to blink or something, except a slightly different thing. But there wasn't a lot for me to go on, preparation-wise, just not a lot. And Jane said, don't do a lot. And because we'd worked together so intensely on the piano, I knew what she meant. It's some alchemy that I feel with Jane that's based on total trust. She has impeccable taste, like I said. I mean, I think she has a great sense of performance with actors.
Yeah, you need to listen to Jane. You guys are good together. I just want to thank you, a masterpiece once again. I work for a moving company, and every time I move a piano, I say, you cannot move the piano in my mind. So just amazing. I mean, I found myself not breathing a whole bunch of times watching this. I mean, just literally holding my breath. So it's like watching a painting. It was a masterpiece. So I just want to thank you for always bringing it every single time.
Thanks so much.
All those lovely ladies that you were a part of, which is so nice to see. You've answered a lot of what I was curious about, but long-term artistic collaborations, how do you keep them? And talk about how this one started and how you keep it through the time when you change and they change.
You're talking about my collaboration with Jane?
Yeah.
Well, it was that's an interesting question too, because that was a little bit of a gamble. That when we talked about that, because Jane and I have maintained a friendship over the 20 years that have spanned in between the piano and Top of the Lake. But it was like, wow, what if we're not as good? What if we're not as good together? What if we've lost the chemistry, or what if there's not a hookup somehow? And then there was. She's, someone I greatly admire, and she's very accessible to actors. She really likes actors, and is very, very at home with actors, very comfortable, very playful. Like we played Simon Says and Tag and musical chairs, and we had talent shows, and we sang, and we had wrestling contests. I mean, she does all of these things, when you're shooting. We'll stop shooting and play Simon Says. I mean, she's like incredibly money doesn't come into it with her. Like the time, money is being spent every second of the day is not where she lives as a filmmaker. So when you're rolling and stuff, it doesn't feel quite as precious. It feels just kind of like breathing a little bit. And I love that about her. And I think that's happening even more now with her. It's like shooting a movie is like breathing. It's her favorite thing to do.
Thank you so much for the courage, grace, and beauty of the work you've been bringing to us through all these years.
Thank you.
Hi, Holly. My name is Adriana Bella. You have been an inspiration to me since I can remember. And I have to say, I always enjoy watching everything you're in. One of my questions, it's actually a two-part, is you take so many amazing risks. And I so love that about you. You have balls. I mean, you're just amazing. And I just wonder, the first part is, how do you get there? How do you sit there and go, you know what, F it. I'm going to do this and take this chance, and it's going to work for me. And the second part is, what is the next big endeavor, the role of your lifetime, the one that you really want to do and just tackle it and kick its ass?
Well, thank you for all of that. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't know. In terms of risks, it's hard to say why. I don't know. Characters have been attracted to me, and I've been attracted to them. So the rest is a little bit of a mystery. Why I do what I do. I kind of, I've been talking to a shrink about it. I don't know. It's kind of the next thing, the right thing, the only thing for me to do. I don't really know another way to approach my work. I know that when I did Saving Grace, and when I took that part, there was, oh, thanks. But, that role encompassed so many risks. And it was, because it was weekly, I was aware of the risks. Sometimes, I'm not so aware because there is time to prepare and there's a blueprint for the whole thing. But with Saving Grace, it was like, jump off the cliff. And that was really the time I've been most aware of, like, wow, this is really, I could really kill myself. But thank God for that. Thank God I had that opportunity to have that much work. Because, as it's no secret, as women especially get older, there's just fewer opportunities. I mean, with television, there's certainly more, because now television is exploding. Who knows where it's going to end up, because it's it's the wild, wild west. But, I mean, just thank you.
You're ageless and your body is amazing. So I don't think it's, and then the role that you're looking forward to someday playing maybe, or directing yourself in something. Is there maybe anything like that in your future?
Well, you know, it'd be cool to do something that I've never done. And stage is always very alluring. To do, you know, maybe Brecht. Brecht is a very captivating playwright to me. Not terribly done. You know, he's not done that much. That would be fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Many blessings. Thank you.
Hi, this is very zen for me. I actually worked on Saving Grace with you. It was a Texas Hold'em dance scene. And you actually walked up to me and asked me if you could run into me. And I was like, okay, sure, you can run into me. I want to thank you for this project, because for someone who says they're not, was it existential? You pulled it off. Your character's very fantastic. And I also want to thank you, too, because for like so many women of an older age are in this production. And I wish that Hollywood, America, because I think this is a British production, and even though here we say, well, you know, women over the age of a certain age are not going to work. Why? Because we're capable, we're possible, and 50% of the population is female. So why do we say that women can't be actors after 25? Why aren't there stories about women when we exist? And it just seems like hypocritical, because like we have a constitution that says we're all equal. So therefore we all should be working and having careers in addition
Well, I mean,
to,
you know, I mean, television is kind of,
yeah.
you know, I mean, not only is television the answer to Bryan Cranston and Gandolfini and Michael Chiklis and, you know, all the Mad Men.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of women who are doing really exciting things
I agree. I want to be one of them. I should say it, but it's a little.
in television now. But
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think it was definitely, you know, a comment that Jane was making, that I'm in a gray wig, Peter Mullins in a gray wig, and the woman who plays Elizabeth Moss's mother has this long gray hair. I mean, Jane is saying, you know,
Yeah.
look at us,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, it's a certain comment that she wanted to make about ageism, and the fact that, you know, all the women at the women's camp are, you know, postmenopausal, was somewhat amusing. You know, just
Yeah.
the whole take that Jane has on it is, I think, pretty funny.
It's awesome, yeah. Yeah. I guess my question is, after working for so long, what do you know now that you wish you knew back then? What advice would you give those of us who want to keep working?
You know, I can't give advice.
No.
I can't give advice, because every time somebody gives advice, there is somebody else who flagrantly, you know, negates it. I remember one time, maybe the last time that I gave advice, I was like 24. I was like 24. I'd been living in New York for about 3 years. I considered myself a veteran. I felt that I belonged in New York. I lived and breathed it. I was meant to be there. I was born to be there, right? And I was looking for a roommate. And this girl came in with her father, and she was very afraid. She'd never been in New York City before, and I was like, everything's cool. I'll show you the subway system. The city is really all right. It's a little dangerous, but you're going to make it. You're going to be fine. I'd love for you to be my roommate, because I need the cash. I need somebody to help me out. And I reassured her dad that, you know, I'd take her around and blah, blah, blah. And I was doing a show at the time. It was a Sunday matinee. I was in, and this was like a month later. She decided not to room with me. I don't know why. But like a month later, I'm reading the New York Times, before my Sunday matinee. I'm backstage, I've got my feet up. I open up the arts and leisure section, and there's a full-page picture of this girl with Jeremy Irons starring in Tom Stoppard's The Real Thing on Broadway. And
Okay, well, I guess she learned the city.
yeah, so, but and that was Lila Robbins, who was a wonderful actress, and she still, has a beautiful career in New York on stage. But I just kind of feel like people make their own way, man, and every way has a legitimacy that nobody else could possibly even imagine.
Well, thank you for all your work, and thank
You
very
can be
much.
holding up, you can be holding traffic as a production assistant, in the wilds of outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and in 3 years you can be a producer. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I would be an actor, but thank you.
Hi, Holly. My name is Bob, and I've been a fan since raised in Arizona. I like that scene where you started crying. That was really cool. But anyway, I was just wondering, do you have any other artistic outlets besides acting, and are there any other actors you'd like to work with that you haven't worked with yet?
Well, there's there's a saying that people kind of are broken down into two things. Are you a fox or are you a hedgehog? And foxes can do lots of things well, and a hedgehog does one thing well, and I'm a hedgehog. I mean, I would love to produce. I love to produce. I think that that's incredibly creative, particularly in television. It has an incredible creative outlet, but in terms of, do I paint in my spare time or, no. In my fantasy, I would love to say yes.
Okay. Any actors you haven't worked with yet that you'd like to?
Yes, so many. Yeah, I mean, well, I'd love to work with Edie Falco. I think she's a force of nature. And because I so fell in love with The Sopranos, of course, James Gandolfini. But right off the bat, it's hard for me to kind of, I was thinking about, oh gosh, get back to me.
Well, I love your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question as to the nature of the calamity.
The what?
The nature of your calamity.
Well, that is a true mystery. Although this man who GJ is based on has a book. I mean, he wrote a book. And I read the book, and the book describes his calamity. And it's a total physiological mystery that is kind of psychic, almost like he had a psychic break, a transformation cellularly. I mean, this is a man who exists in a very kind of, he was brought up to be a spiritual leader, and then denied it, negated it, walked away, but still has the upbringing, the ancestry, the heritage leading him to the path of enlightenment and spiritual, divinity, and walked away from all of that. But I think that he would have described it that he didn't walk away. He was struck down. So there is something about the calamity that is, that it feels like some kind of tragic opposite of enlightenment. But this is a guy who breathes rare air. And in a way, and he said that after having experienced the calamity that he would wish it on no man. But having said all of that, having read his book and having played GJ, The Calamity still has something that is beyond my own imagination and my own experience.
And how has you changed as an actor since the piano?
How have I changed as an actor since the piano?
Yeah.
Gosh, man. I mean, I guess, it's always amazing to even, for example, when Jane said, I wonder if we're going to hook up after 20 years professionally, because we, like I said, we remain friends. But, acting is like a chemical thing. It's about so many things that are ephemeral and beyond, a grasp. What transpires between two people, what transpires between you and your best friend, and the difficulties that you have with your own mother or your father or your husband or your lover or your dog, maybe not your dog, but like everything, all of these things, incremental and gigantic, add up to change. So, you meet an old lover, somebody who you were with 5 years ago, and you go, wow, how did I ever get with you? Who was I? I'm not her anymore, and they say the same thing about themselves regarding me. I mean, we change in these ways that are kind of astronomical, and minuscule. I can't begin to describe how I've changed since the piano, except in some ways I'm fundamentally exactly the same, and in other ways I'm completely a new person.
Hi, I'm Maya. I love your work. I think you're an amazing actress. I wanted to know how you stay fresh. You've had such an amazing long career, and the business side of acting can be kind of jolting sometimes, and almost it's hard to keep your effervescence all the time.
Yes.
And you seem to do it. And I wonder if you had any tips or anything that you can say to actors that want to stay in this for life, but maybe sometimes the business kind of elements are a lot for them to handle.
Well, I mean, rejection is so hard to handle, and every actor faces rejection with the exception of a very, very few, but mainly everybody is subjected. For me, and like I said, I can't offer advice because somebody will completely walk away on top with what I say don't do. Right. For me, it's always, I've never really looked at my career terribly as a business. I mean, I don't look at it a lot as a business. I look at it a little bit as a business because I kind of have to, because I do want longevity. I want to keep having choices to do things. But having said that, I tend to flourish more as a creative being, and I kind of leave it at that. I don't really want to get into a lot of the machinations of making it a business. And it's a big business, and you can sincerely do that. I mean, tonight I'm going to give an award to the women of Mad Men, and it's the name of the award is the Lucy Award, and that's named after Lucille Ball.
Wow.
And Lucille Ball was a woman who seriously turned her talent into, a dynasty.
Yes.
She looked at it as a total business, and she remained, as a businesswoman, an incredible artist. So there are people who can do it to beat the band, and I kind of don't want to. It's just not how I'm set up, So I'm kind of left with me and my intuitions about, do I want to do this or not? But it's hard. I can't deny it. And you know what? Effervescence at one point or another is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
because you can skate on your youth, your youthful exuberance, and your youthful impetuousness for so long, and then you have to choose it. So it's really a matter of kind of saying yes to acting. And I just do.
That's awesome. Is there anything in between projects that you find really inspires you besides acting?
Well, I love to travel.
Oh, cool.
I love to travel. I love to spend time with my family. Both those things are really important. I love to read fiction. I don't think there's enough fiction being read, by people. I just think there's a real kind of a death of reading. But mainly, I would say still New York. New York keeps me alive. I've always had that instinct about the city, and still, I get fed by it. I go out the door and I have stories to tell when I come home about things that I saw or somebody who I encountered, or, and so I guess the stimulation of other people has kept me fed.
Thank you so much. You rock.
Thank you.
Hi, Holly. My name is Savannah. Actually, on my drive over here, my mom called me and said...
You wanted to do what?
My mom called me on my drive over here and said, tell her that I love her. So, my mother loves you. Definitely watches Home for the Holidays at least once a year. So, I wanted to ask you if you ever have... I kind of felt it a little bit when you were talking about Top of the Lake, but if you ever have moments of self-doubt with your characters and how you push through that, or what you just decide to do instead of letting it get to you. If you ever feel like you can't do it, what is
Yeah, that's
what's
another
something that
good question.
Yeah, what's something that you find helps you?
Well, I have to say, me personally, I work with fear all the time. I mean, I always have to kind of ride my fear. I never have lost it. As a matter of fact, I battle with it, being too afraid to act. I mean, personally, and I was very afraid to do GJ. But at this point, I'm so friends. I've come to terms with my fear to such a great degree that it doesn't crush me the way that I used to be afraid that it would. I used to be afraid that the fear was going to do me in. Not even the thing that I was afraid of, but the actual fear could be unmanageable. And probably, I should meditate, but I mean, one thing that I've done on film sets, just kind of, and I always like to do this, and it's based in managing that feeling of doubt and the feeling of nervousness, is to go second. I mean, like, people always like to go first, when they do takes, and I always want the other person to go first, so that I can kind of make friends with the scene, I can approach the scene with the fear being slightly, in the back of my mind instead of in the front. The performance anxiety, that's the way that I kind of manage it on a set. And that's been really helpful, and I learned that, through, just trial and error and experience. But at this point, if I really feel like I'm going to fail, it's okay. I mean, now I'm kind of okay with it. Over the years, I've grown a little more at ease, and I try never, ever to say that I don't think that I can do it. I try never to say that I don't think that I'm going to be able to do it. Because every actor on some level feels that they might not be able to do it. And then you just got a coffee clash of people talking about their insecurities right before you're going to do it, and I think that's poisonous for myself. I think it's just poisonous. It's like I keep that to myself because I have to ride the horse, So if you're going to go, oh man, I don't know if I can ride this horse, then you're going to get hysterical. And then you're not going to be able to, you know what I mean? You have to kind of, I mean, for me personally, I have to manage that voice. Acknowledge her and say, you know, sit in the back, you know, be cool.
And what about if you've ever had moments where you're actually in the performance and maybe, I don't know if you've ever been like, wow, I can totally see myself acting right now. Or you had those moments where you're like, I need to step back and take a moment.
Well, yeah, and then I go to the director and I say, can I have another take?
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, definitely, you know, and then also I've learned that, you know, for my own self, that I'm not always the best judge of my performance, you know, and that's why it's so great to have a director, is because I can say, wow, I totally missed it. That wasn't what I wanted. And then it's okay. You know, it actually is one of the building blocks for the performance, and I just don't see it. So.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And like everyone here, you're incredibly inspiring, and hopefully one day I'll get to work with you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Hi, Holly. I'm Scott Brockman. First, I'd like to say it's a pleasure seeing you perform and getting to see you. I had three questions. The first one was if you could share a fun or funny experience on set that you had that comes to mind, a fun or funny experience. Two, I was going to ask what you like to do when you're not working, what types of things. I think you started to answer that a little bit in a previous person's question. And then the third thing I was going to ask was, if you were to compare working on a project like this one and what it was like when you were working on The Incredibles, what are the things that come to mind?
Well, I mean, The Incredibles, you know, The Incredibles is like a one-man band, and that was Brad Bird, and The Incredibles in some ways, well, it's his and the animators. I felt like I did nothing for The Incredibles. I mean, I love the movie. I think the guy's a genius. And I had no idea what it was we were putting together, you know. And he basically, you just go into a room and he says, okay, so you're in a fight. You know, you're in a fight, you're loud. Scream. You know, you're losing. And so it was, I didn't really know fully what we were working on. And we worked on it for like a year and a half. I would just do recordings once a month for 3 hours. Sorry, I got a little distracted.
The first question was a fun or funny experience on set of Top of the Lake.
Well, one of the things that we did was we all played Jono. At one point, we all played Jono, and we made up a scene that Jono was in, and then each of us did him, and that was pretty wild.
And the last thing was...
Like I said, the set was a pretty loose place.
And the last thing was what you like to do for fun when you're not working, which you started to talk
Well,
about
I mean,
a little bit.
it's interesting. You know, one of the byproducts of being an actor that I've really taken advantage of and that has offered me a lot of fun is going to film festivals. Because when you go to a film festival, or if they say, do you want to be on the jury of such and such, if I can, because I can't always, but if I can, I'll say yes. Because I'll go, wow, I've never been to that part of Spain. Yes, or Istanbul, that would be cool. So, you know, the fact is you get a free trip over, you get to see some really cool movies and hang out with people who are interesting and international, and then you get to travel. Once you're in that country, then you're sprung free, and you can travel kind of relatively cheaply, and you get a free plane ticket. So that's been something that I've been doing from the beginning. You know, when Raising Arizona got invited to the Cannes Film Festival, that's the first time that I did that, and I've done it ever since. And that's been a great experience to travel the world, not on my dime. You know, and get to do something that I really like to do, which is to see different cultures and be around different kinds of people and, you know, be in different cities.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Holly. I'm also a big fan. I'm from Australia, and I actually just arrived a couple of days ago.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm from Australia. I just arrived a couple of days ago,
Oh, wow.
and I'm just curious how you found your fellow ensemble cast members, but particularly all the great Australian and New Zealand actors that you worked with.
Well, they were so much fun. I mean, I really find the actors that I've worked with from Australia and New Zealand both to be extremely playful. You know, like, they are willing to, like, let it fly. And they, you know, it feels to me like nothing is that precious, that everything is kind of up for grabs. I mean, you know, they'll sing, they'll dance, they'll perform. You know, just at any time, you know, if you say, what's that song, they'll start singing at the top of their lungs in a restaurant. And I mean, it's just, they were so much fun. We had a blast. And, you know, the women's camp, I think, is a really successful part of the movie because of Jane's unerring casting decisions. And those women were, I just thought they were impeccable.
And how did you find filming in those beautiful parts of New Zealand?
How did I?
How did you find the shoot?
Well, I mean, it was incredible also for it to be kind of a bookend of the piano, because the piano was so lush and kind of rainforesty and claustrophobic, and the bush is so dense, and then the South Island is almost disorienting. You know, the scale is vast. I mean, it's really disorienting to be there sometimes. You can almost get dizzy from, the scale is so unlike anything that I've been in, except maybe, no, nothing. I was going to say Alaska, but it's more vast there. Alaska is kind of craggy and steep, and it's the most remarkable place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Holly, on behalf of the SAG Foundation, we just want to thank you so much for coming out today,
Yeah,
spending
thank
your
you.
afternoon. Please join me in giving her a
Thanks so much.